Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark of the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 2005 coming-of-age French drama comedy C.R.A.Z.Y. Hey, please don't do that. Whatever you do, don't do that. This review is not going to be that bad, I promise. Just please take care of yourself. C.R.A.Z.Y has a 100% fresh rating from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 93% fresh rating from the audience. I am currently reviewing every movie that has a 100% fresh rating from the critics. Now, I'm going to start at the end of this movie, which is something I don't normally do, but I think the end of this movie really sums up what I want to talk about, and who would have thought it's at the end of the movie, right? So there's a character named Zac who is a homosexual in the 1960s and 70s. And he has not come out to his parents yet, at least not officially. His parents have reason to believe that he's homosexual for a lot of things that he's done throughout his younger years, but he has not come out to his father yet. Him and his father are in a parking lot, and his father is someone who just refuses to believe that he could have an offspring that is homosexual. He thinks that it is a problem with something in your brain.
En tout cas, on va y régler son problème tout de suite parce que son problème, là, regarde, il est là, dans la tête, là. Quand t'es pas normal, tu vas te faire traiter. Ceux-là qui sont de même, ne sont pas venus au monde de même. Ils sont devenus. C'est à nous autres à voir à ce que notre gars ne devienne pas.
He thinks that he could never accept a son if he is homosexual. So they're in a parking lot, and he tells his son to be a man, tell the truth, tell me what's going on. And his son, Zac, is all like, well, what do you want me to tell you? That I'm homosexual so that you can throw me on the curb, that you can hate me the rest of my life, so that you can forget that I ever exist, so you can treat me like garbage? You want me to tell you I'm a homosexual because of all those reasons, right?
Tout petit que tu meurs comme tu respires. C'est rien passé, là. Un homme de toi une fois dans ta vie, puis dis la vérité! Qu'est-ce que tu veux que je te dise, hein? Que je fais?
And I think the important question here that I was asking is what actually makes a man a man? So he said, be a man and tell the truth. Yeah, of course, telling the truth is part of being a man. But isn't also part of being a man accepting who your children are, accepting them for what they want to be in life, and accepting them for the person that they've become? I believe that homosexuality is something that you're born with, personally. But the fact that he is going to completely toss his son away like he's nothing and treat his son like garbage because he's a homosexual does not make him a man. It makes him less than what a man should be. Now, I realize in the 1960s and 70s it's different. You had the man was working, the wife was at home making the babies, and the man was in charge, and like what the husband did, what he said goes, and that kind of thing. And to be a man, you have to be this stern head of the household type of thing. But even today, we have children who are afraid to tell their parents that they're homosexual for fear that they're going to be forgotten about, for fear that they're going to be told that there's something wrong with them, for fear that they're going to be thrown out on the curb. There's a lot of fear with this still, and we're like, what, 50, 60 years in the future from when this movie took place. Not from when it was made, obviously, but from the time period from which it took place. And we still have these feelings and these emotions that run through our children's heads where they don't know who to reach out to, and they don't know who they can talk to. And I don't want to get political here, but people are upset that when kids go to their teacher to talk about stuff like this, but if they don't have anyone in their family who they think they can safely talk to, where are they supposed to go? I think it's just sad that there are families that create this household where there are things that if you bring this situation up, and if you are homosexual, I don't want to talk to you anymore, you're out of here, it's something wrong with you, let's go get you some help, let's get you some therapy type of thing. I think it's terrible. And I think in this movie, Zac is the one who's more of a man, because he has more qualities. Even though he's gay, he's more of a man than his father is. And I think that's a big part of this movie is Zac, at a young age, he's one of four brothers, so the other four brothers are Christian, Raymond, Anton, and Yvan. So if you spell those out, if you phonetically take the first letter of each brother. You have Christian, Raymond, Anton, Zac, and Yvonne. You get the word crazy. But this movie is also, the title is also derived from Patsy Cline's song "Crazy," which is an amazing song. I love old country music. But at a young age, Zac and his father are like two peas in a pod. They're best friends. They like out of all the brothers, he's the one that gets along with his father the best. But then one day his father finds him in his room playing with his little brother, and he's dressed in his mother's clothing. And then things kind of go downhill at that point. His father starts having these ideas in his head that maybe his son could be a homosexual, and he starts treating his son much different because of that. When they have this great friendship and this great relationship, he starts treating him different because he thinks that he might be a homosexual. Now, growing up, Zac has a friend named Michelle who is basically madly in love with him. You could tell that she loves the heck out of Zac, and she wants to be with Zac. Zac tells her that it's not a good idea because he doesn't want to ruin their relationship as friends. There's a point in the movie where Zac kind of gets upset at his father for things that his father has said, and he smashes his record, his prized record of "Crazy" by Patsy Cline. Now, this is a record that he got from like a different country. It's irreplaceable, and Zac knows this, so he smashes it. And after this, Zac is told to go to a therapist to see what's going on in his head. I think part of it is because of the record, and part of it is because his father thinks that he's homosexual. So Zac goes to a therapist, and the therapist basically says something like he did it on purpose because he was trying to get like an honest feeling out of his father or something like that, and his father just thinks it's hogwash, and basically throws that idea out the window. Personally, if your father tells you you need to go through a therapist because he thinks you're homosexual, that's not something I think that you should do, because there's nothing wrong with you if you're homosexual. So Zac ends up getting into a bike accident later on in life where he's in the hospital for a long period of time. Now, there's also Raymond, who is one of Zac's brothers, who is a rebellious person. He's very rebellious. He kind of lazy. He doesn't really keep a job. He does drugs. And his father absolutely loves him because he's a man. He's a rugged man. Now, his father does get upset at him from time to time because he's like mooching off his parents, and because he doesn't have a job. But you could definitely see that there's a scene in the movie actually where Raymond calls Zac like a fairy or something, or the fag word. I don't like using that word, but he uses that word also. And his father gets really upset at him and tells him to apologize. And Raymond at first doesn't do it, but then he like begrudgingly apologized to him.
Excuse-toi puis remets-y son émission. Excuse-toi, je t'ai dit!
In the next scene, you see Zac and Raymond's father outside with Raymond, and he's apologizing to Raymond for giving him a hard time. He's like, "Hey, I'm sorry I gave you such a hard time, but you can't call your brother that," type of thing. Basically, just kind of pushing it aside, pushing it under the rug, type of thing. So there's a scene later on in the movie where one of Zac's brothers, Christian, he announces his engagement, and at the engagement wedding reception, Zac is seen shotgunning a joint with someone else, with another guy, and there's someone outside who sees this, and he tells Zac's father that Zac is French kissing someone in his car outside. Now, Zac's this is right before the scene that I said in the beginning where Zac and his father have it out in the parking lots about being a man. But Zac's brother hears this, Raymond, and he just like wails into this this guy who's telling these untruths, because he's mad that he's mad that this guy is calling his brother a homosexual, but I think he's also just mad at the world as well for the situations that he's in. After that scene in the parking lot that I talked about, Zach ends up going to Jerusalem, and he ends up there's this weird desert scene that he gets caught up in where he's out in the middle of a desert and he is saved by this guy who like lives in the desert. I don't really know what the symbolism or the meaning for this was. Maybe it's Zach being lost in the world, and he just needs someone to hold his hand and show him the way and tell him everything's gonna be okay. Maybe that's what this part of the movie is about. I'm not really sure, but Zach ends up buying the record that his father that he destroyed for his father. It's that same one of a kind record that his father said couldn't be replaced. He ends up buying it for him, and then later on we learn, I believe it's Raymond. They don't say which brother is the brother that overdosed, but I believe it's Raymond who overdoses at the end of the movie, and he ends up passing away. And Zach and his father end up having this conversation where it seems like his father is opening up to him and telling him that he's going to accept him for who he is. And you have this finally at the end of the movie, this miraculous moment where his father sees the passing of one of his sons, and he's finally saying, you know, life is short. I will accept you for who you are, type of thing. But that doesn't happen at all. He says life is short, but if you're asking me to accept you and as a homosexual, I can't do it, basically is what he says. And then at the end of the movie, we get a montage like 10 years later where Zach and his father have made up, and his father does accept him for who he is, and they like never talk about it again or something, but he accepts him for who he is, and he accepts him as his son, and he welcomes him into his life. It's a really great moment. I think at the end of the movie they say that they never bring his homosexuality up again. I might be wrong about that, but if that's true, I wish that wasn't true. Because accepting someone as being able to talk about who they are and what they're doing in life, and not just like, I'll accept you if we don't talk about this ever again. But anyway, the acting in this movie is absolutely phenomenal. The guy who plays Zach and the guy who plays his father are absolutely amazing. Stellar acting. I was absolutely blown away by how good they were. Also, the guy who plays Raymond is pretty good too at his role. The music in this movie is fantastic. And just the subject matter, I think, in this movie it's so topical today. It's amazing how topical this is today when it's something that's based on the 1960s and 70s, and even 2025. I mean, that's almost 20 years ago. It's hard to think that. It's hard to accept the fact that 2025 was almost 20 years ago. But it's a movie that's almost 20 years ago that's made about a time from the 60s and 70s, and 20 years ago we still had this issue, and now we still have this issue where some children find themselves with no one to talk to, no one to go to, no one to look up to. And in this movie, it's sad because the mother in this movie is very understanding and would be very understanding of who her son is and what he is, and she would accept him, but she holds back because she has to accept what the father wants, because it's the 60s and 70s. She doesn't have that moment where she says, like, this is our son and we're going to accept him no matter what you have to say. She doesn't have that moment that I wish she would have, but she like has to hold back, and you could see that seething kind of holding back but doesn't want to hold back type of thing going on, and she does a really great job of that. And this is someone that he could have probably gone to as well, but I don't think he did because he was afraid it would get back to his father. I'm just assuming things here. But watching this movie, it just makes me really sad inside that there are still children who still feel like they have no one to go to. There are children who still feel like they can't bring the subject up to their families. There are children who still feel lost, and these are moments when these children go to people like their teachers or go to people like their principals to have these conversations, and then the parents get upset because the teachers are talking to them about these subjects that their children don't feel like they can talk to their parents about. It's just it's so sad for the child that we're not giving them an outlet. We're not giving them someone that they can turn to and have these conversations about. And in this movie, the dad is actually the one who's crazy, in my opinion. I think the title may be supposed to be like the son, Zac, is crazy because he is because he's homosexual. I don't know if it's just crazy because of the music, the song, or if it's crazy because of their three letter the first letter of all three brothers spelled out as crazy. But I think the father is crazy in this movie, that he's not able to accept. And sure, I've said this about other time periods. It's a different time, 60s and 70s, but I'd have to believe that not all parents in the 60s and 70s who whose childs came to them about this would have reacted in the same manner. Some of them had to be accepting of their children, right? Like not all of them did this. It's like when I watch a movie like Black Narcissus, where there's just the whole movie is riddled with racism throughout the whole thing, just racism everywhere, and someone says, "Well, you can't give that a bad review because it's racist because that was the time." Like that's the time they were in. Sure, but like not everyone from that time period was racist. I've seen tons of movies from that time period that were not racist. So it's people making a choice. They're choosing what to put in their movies. They're choosing how to raise their children. They're choosing how to give their children a space that they can open up to, a safe space that they can talk about things, and they're choosing not to do that. So, like, I kind of just brushed away those criticisms when people say you can't talk about that time period because it's a different time. Yeah, it was a different time, but there were adults during that time, I'm sure, who could have these conversations with their kids and did not disown them. So, anyway, this movie is fantastic. This movie is amazing. This movie is one of the best movies I've seen in a long time, and I just gave two other 10 out of 10s. I've given a lot of 10 out of 10s, but that's not normal. I've only given 20 10 out of 10s for this whole list, and I've reviewed 170 something movies. But I give it a 10 out of 10, one of the best movies I've seen in a very long time, a breath of fresh air. I want to see more movies that are as great as this. This is why I'm doing the Rotten Tomatoes list. I want to see some of the best movies ever made that I've never heard of before, and a lot of these movies that I reviewed I've never heard of before, and I am so excited still after doing this for this list for almost 2 years now. June will be 2 years. I'm still excited. I'm still pumped up. I want to see the rest of these movies because this is the kind of movie like Almost Famous where after I watch it, I want to go out there and I just want to do something good. I want to be somebody. So anyway, 10 out of 10. This was probably a longer review than I've done in a long time. I'm sorry for rambling a lot. I'm sorry if I got too political here and there. I don't think that homosexuality and giving a space for your child to be safe and to talk to you about their life and about how they feel and about concerns they might have, and having that conversation and your child being okay and being comfortable with having that conversation with you. I don't think that should be political. I think unfortunately it's become political, especially when you start talking about allowing teachers to have conversations with kids who don't feel safe to have it with their parents. It's definitely become political. It shouldn't be political. It should be about the child. It should be about the child feeling comfortable, and it should be about the child getting everything they need to get, even if they say stuff that you don't agree with, and they want to live a life that you don't agree with. You should still give them all the information from both sides. Listen to what they have to say. Don't try to steer them into one direction. Don't try to push them into what you want. Give them the information and let them decide and let them be who they are. Thank you. Have a great day.